So what we have in this question is we've got a rectangular pyramid with a base that's a rectangle, 4 by 6, and it has a height of 8. Now this just says height, so that's from the center straight up. That's not the slant height. Okay? We're going to try and draw a three-dimensional rectangular pyramid, and then we're also going to draw its net. And the net of a shape is if you took it apart and lay it flat, kind of like a cardboard box. If you opened it up and laid all the cardboard flat, that's what the net is. And then we're going to try and calculate the surface area of this shape. Now it doesn't sound too bad yet. We'll draw it out. So I'm going to put my 4 by 6, 4 here, 6 here. I'm going to try and draw straight up from the center, straight up 8. That'll be my height. And then from there, connect those points to give an idea of what this shape looks like. Now when we open it up and lie it flat, we'd have our 4 by 6 rectangle like that, and there would be a triangle off here, a triangle off here, triangle off there, and triangle off of here. The first thing that you're going to be tempted to do on a question like this, because obviously this rectangle, 24 meters squared, easy to figure out the area of that rectangle. We're also going to need to figure out the area of all these triangles, and so we're going to need this height and this height. And what you'll be very tempted to do, because those are heights, is to write 8, because the question told us that this pyramid has a height of 8. But it's not the slant height, right? Because those little black lines that I drew there, this one right here on the side with a 4 would be this one down to there. And the one on the side of 6 would be that one right there. So let's start with this one with the side length of 4. How would we figure out how long that is? If I drew a line connecting this to this, and I'll redraw that triangle here. I know that that red line, which is my normal height, was 8. I had a blue line across the bottom, and this dotted line right there, that's my slant height. How long is that blue line? 3. How did you know it was 3? Half of 6, because we know that whole side is 6, and that's going to be half of it, so this blue line is going to be 3. And how does that help us? Because then we got a squared plus b squared equals c squared, right? And then we can go 8 squared plus 3 squared equals, I'm going to call this x, because it's the first thing we don't know. You could use c. That would be fine as well. So we're going to get 64 plus 9 is 73 equals x squared. And I'm going to show you a couple tricks with your calculator as well here that are going to come in handy. So in order to find out what x is, we're going to need to do the square root of 73. And push enter. So we find out that that's 8.544. Going back to my screen here, I'm going to write that down. X equals 8.544. I'll do dot, dot, dot to say that I'm going to keep all of those decimal places. Now, in order to keep all of those decimal places, your calculator is powerful in that it can store a bunch of numbers, almost as many numbers as you would like, into its memory. What you have is right above your on button is a store button that says stop. Push that button, and since letter X, I'm going to find X on all my letters here and store it as X. Can you see that in mine it's green, some calculators your alpha button is orange and your letters are orange. So I'm going to push alpha, that'll get me to my letters, and go X, and push enter. And now my calculator will remember that X is 8.54 and remember all those decimal places. That's going to be helpful because in this question, we have more than one thing that we need to figure out. We just figured out that one of these dotted black lines was 8.544. We were figuring this one out, which is this triangle right there. That one was the base of 4. Can you see that you could make a similar right triangle for the other black line? We have our height of 8. Pick a new color. Ooh, magenta. Make that line magenta there. How long will that magenta line be? 2, half of 4. And then we could figure out the other dotted line. Since I used X already, I'll use Y next. So now I have 8 squared plus 2 squared equals Y squared. 68 equals Y squared. So Y is equal to, and then I'll go back to my calculator and do the similar thing as before. Square root of 68. Enter. And now I'm going to store that one, alpha, and where's Y? To Y. Enter. 8.246. Go back to my diagram just so that I have an idea of what I've been doing. I just figured out this dotted line, 8.246. So now my total surface area is going to equal my base, which was 24. We already figured that out, right? Can you see that you have 2 triangles that have that base of 6? So I'm going to go plus 2 triangles times by, and a triangle is base, so 6, times height, which is 8.246 divided by 2. That'll be those 2 triangles with a base of 6 plus 2 triangles with a base of 4, and then it was 8.544 divided by 2. Mathematically, what happens when you multiply by 2 and then divide by 2? Cancel, it's the same thing, it just does nothing, right? So you can type this into your calculator exactly as you see it right here, but if you can see that timesing by 2 and dividing by 2 are opposites of each other that would just cancel each other out, it's going to save us a little bit of typing into our calculator. Now, which of those values was X and which was Y? The 8.544, this was our X value, right? And the 8.246 was our Y value. Okay? And this is going to be very nice for when we go to our calculator now to find the final answer. We can type this whole thing in all at once, and I can go 24 plus 6 times, and instead of writing 8.246 and all those decimal places, I can just write Y plus 4 times, and I can just write X. And I don't even have to show the multiplication sign because you know if you have 4x, that means 4 times x, right? So I had the multiplication sign between the 6 and the y. It's okay. But if I want to save another 3 milliseconds while I'm doing the question, I can just do 4x. And when I push enter, it tells me the answer, because the calculator has remembered what the value of x and the value of y is. And you don't have to worry about your calculator. They'll remember those numbers until you replace it with something else. So another question, you might want to store something else as x. You'll be able to do that at that time. If you want to use different letters, you can. If you want a shortcut to store something as x, hit the store button, and then right here there's an xt theta n button. That'll change it, put it to x even quicker, because x is the one that people like to use the most. So if I do that, now my calculator remembers 107.65. So the total surface area, and the question said to the nearest meter, right? So we can go to our approximation sign, be 108 meters squared.